and we take that privilege and we do perform also, and we do justification, and always our founder chairman's blessings are with us. During this lockdown, as I mentioned earlier, we have conducted so many webinars, and now when it came to our turn, we wanted the most eminent personality as the resource person. So it was nobody else. The first name struck in our mind, none other than Dr. Paul Russell sir, Senior Assistant General Manager, Air India, Toronto. A very busy person, but very perfect and accurate also. We have an interaction. So when I approached sir with this proposal, in fact, frankly speaking, I was not having much hope. Such a busy person he is. But on the very first call itself, we could finalize the entire program. And that is what sir is committed, a person always busy. And sir has requested only one thing: please don't schedule it in the morning hours because sir is very busy. Then only we arrange it in this evening, pleasant evening. That is the Independence Day Eve also. So we are celebrating the independence in this fashion, enriching our knowledge with the support of our sir. Our association with Air India, SARS organization, Air India Engineering Services Limited, it is, especially the last 2 years, we have an agreement with Air India SARS organization under his eminent leadership. We are conducting the practical training for our AME students. And in fact, my association with SAR is quite old. Even our old pattern E-Part 8 students also got on-job training under his eminent leadership. And I invited sir on several occasions to be the chief guest on to visit our campus. He was, in fact, he was ready. Sir was ready, but due to his hectic schedule, only it could not materialize so far. And I think I must thank this lockdown also. Now it is, though he was busy, but in the afternoon hours after his busy schedule, sir is with us. And now we are really happy, sir. So on behalf of Nehru Group of Institutes, entire NGA family, and especially Nehru College of Aeronautics and Applied Sciences, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, to be the chief guest and resource person to present and to enrich the knowledge to our students, sir. Hearty welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I must thank you on several accounts. Number one, for providing that on-job training to our AME students as per the CAR 147 new pattern, ESA pattern. And really, our students are really happy the way you and your team, under your leadership, the program is going on. And the feedback what I'm receiving from our student is extraordinary, and you deserve the applause, sir. And please convey this to your team members also. So we must thank you, sir, for that. Number one. Number two, again, we must thank you for accepting our invitation immediately then and there. As I said, we were not confident, frankly speaking, because I invited, I think you may be recollecting 8 or 10 times for the last 3-4 years. You could not make it. So this time also, but I tried because first name was yourself only, but in the first call itself, even we have finalized everything, including the topic. Thank you very much, sir, for immediately accepting. Again, number three, maybe this is in anticipation. We have worked out with your support. We have coming to another agreement for AME program is going on smoothly. We wanted an agreement for AMT students also, and we had full support, 100% support from you. And now it is under the consideration of headquarter, your Air India headquarter, and it was about to be signed, but unfortunately it is locked down because of the lockdown. I hope now we will continue with we both will work together to get it materialized, sir. So thank you for that also. Again, I must thank you, sir, for choosing such a wonderful topic. How relevant is that topic today? We need not explain. Dear students, dear viewers, this topic was selected well before, at least 1 week before the Karipur, that is Kozhikode International Airport accident. We know what is the importance of safety of the aircraft and personnel. We lost an excellent pilot, co-pilot, and so many other human beings also. So first of all, let us pay homage to the pilot, co-pilot, and all other personalities, those who lost their lives, valuable lives. We pray for the speedy recovery of those people already hospitalized and getting recovery now. So we wish a speedy recovery. And again, it will be our failure if we don't salute the local residents of our airport, near airport, the local public, the way they involved in rescue operation and the way they shown the humanity to the entire world. We really salute the residents of our Karipur airport, that Calicut International Airport. Aviation is a dynamic topic, dynamic field, and avionics is the core of that. As far as advancement is concerned, as far as improvement is concerned, we know what communication we had 10 years, 20 years back, but what is today. Similarly, everything. So whether radar communication navigation system in the aviation, or instrument landing system, or any other airborne, that radar systems are there, airborne coalition avoidance system, global position system, so many are there. So our specialist, our today's chief guest is a specialist on the avionics, and avionics is the only core area where modernization is taking much. So, sir, I'm happy to share that I am also from avionics stream. And like you know, I am also, my specialization nowadays is a human factor. Because when the human factor was introduced, there was no one to take up the challenge. So I took the challenge. Now, simultaneously, that human factor also in the civil aviation requirements, that module 10 and 9 also is special topics. So anyway, sir, thank you very much for accepting our invitation with us. And we wanted a person to rock that webinar, and you are here with us. We are really happy. And on this occasion, I would like to invite our Dean, Dr. P.R. Balaji, and our quality manager, Mr. Vishwanathan, our HOD, BSc and BBA department, Professor Singadu Vadivelu, and Professor Emeritus, Professor Muthuswamy, training manager of our Jawaharlal Aviation Institute, Mr. Prabhakaran, and all my colleagues, other principals, deans, HODs of our sister concerns. A hearty welcome, and dear students and well-wishers, and many of our alumni joined today. A hearty welcome to one and all. Let us have a pleasant evening. Let us enjoy learning. So wishing a happy learning to all of you once again. Hearty welcome. Thank you. Over to MOC.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words of welcome.
Thank you.
In order to succeed, we must first believe that we can. Now I call upon Dr. P. Krishna Kumar, CEO and Secretary of Nehru Group of Institutions, to deliver the presidential address.
Good afternoon to all, and most respected our chief guest, and always sir as a person supports the, especially on AME fraternity and the students, those who are part of it, to get exposed and understand and learn the best things. Most respected chief guest, Dr. U.S. Paul Russell, Senior Assistant General Manager, Maintenance Training Organization, Air India Engineering Services Limited, Trivandrum. And Mr. A. Ramesh Babu, Training Manager of AME and AMT Department of Nehru College of Aeronautics and Applied Sciences. Dr. P. Balaji, Dean Academic Affairs of our Aeronautics College. Mr. V. Vishwanathan, Quality Manager of AME and AMT Department. And a wonderful MOC team who was hosting this event. And the beautiful topic which was decided by the chief guest is modern avionics for ultimate safety of flights. I'm sure all the participants, my own team of faculty fraternity who has joined for this webinar, and all my students, those who are aspiring to be a great maintenance engineers, and all my alumni who was part of this session, and other teaching fraternity who represent different institutions of NGI. I think this is the first time probably this afternoon we are using for this webinar session, because we have conducted a lot of webinars, discussions, and understood from different personality. But today's personality is one of the greatest personality who was having experience more than my age. So he is a stalwart in the maintenance engineering, representing Air India, and who was really, we can say, a person of commitment, person of social responsibility, a person who has always have the feeling of training the newcomers into the maintenance engineering. I really appreciate Nehru College of Aeronautics and Applied Sciences for organizing this wonderful webinar under this COVID time. Because we used to listen, and we used to get the opportunity to meet people or invite people to the campus for different discussions on different topics. But today, we are fortunate to get Sir's consent, and Sir is going to share the best knowledge and information, which is very relevant because of the Karipur incident. Recently, it has happened in Kerala. I'm sure all the participants who are part of this late session can understand the relevance of aviation industry. I personally, from different sources, what I understood is probably, I salute my father for starting this institution long back. And this is our mother institution. And this is our flagship institution also. And I'm sure all these years, when this past 5 decades, a lot of our passed out students, proud alumni of our institution, serving this aviation industry in different designations. And today we are blessed with the greatest personality for the session. So I personally feel this kind of discussions will always, this kind of sharing will always motivate the young people or part of the students community to understand what is the reality of aviation industry, or what is all about avionics. And all my teaching fraternity, I think almost 80 to 90% people are from Air Force. So they would have experienced, learned, relearned, and they're sharing the best information, content, and making and motivating our children to see that they also give the best service in the aviation industry in terms of maintaining the aircraft, in terms of making their life successful. So I don't want to take much of the time because Sir has his own limitation on the time schedule. So I take this opportunity to thank you once again, sir, on behalf of management, on behalf of entire teaching fraternity and the student community who has joined today's four sessions. And we all eager to hear from you to understand what is going to be the future of our the field of avionics, then the field of aviation, and also the field of maintenance engineering. Thank you so much, sir, from my bottom of heart. And I really appreciate the entire department for organizing this. I'm so delighted to listen to him, sir. And thank you so much. And let us all learn and relearn continuously. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It was a power-packed speech.
Acquiring wisdom of knowledge in life is the greatest wealth. We have in our midst an eminent personality with a very high profile of vast experience in his field. I now request Ms. G. Vasiki, Assistant Professor, to engrave the profile of our chief guest.
A warm good afternoon to everyone. I feel highly elated and honored to introduce our chief guest for the day, Dr. U.S. Paul Russell. Dr. U.S. Paul Russell is an aviation professional with overall 35 years of experience and currently working as Senior Assistant General Manager with Air India Engineering Services Limited. He is specialized in avionics systems of modern civil aircraft and human factors in aviation, a branch of aviation psychology. Sir is currently heading the Maintenance Training Organization, a functional unit of Air India Engineering Services Limited at Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, which is approved by DGCA. Presently, Dr. Russell is engaged in imparting and organizing training programs to pilots, engineering executives, aircraft maintenance engineers and technicians in Airbus 320, A319, A321, A300, B2 and B4, and Boeing 737 NG aircraft and V2500, CFM 56, 5B and 7B, and JT-8D engines and allied subjects. He is an adjunct faculty with various universities and colleges. Sir has extensive practical experience in the troubleshooting, removal, installation, and testing procedures of avionics systems and components of Boeing and Airbus aircraft in the fleet of Air India Limited. Dr. Russell is a DGCA approved instructor for Boeing and Airbus aircraft and allied subjects like human factors in aviation and safety management systems, etc. He is trained in India and abroad in maintenance of modern aircraft. Sir is a graduate in electronics and communication engineering, postgraduate in electronics and control engineering. He has also holding MTech in embedded systems, MBA in general stream, and a diploma in training and development. Also, he has a MA degree in psychology and doctorate in electronics and communication engineering. Sir has the avionics licenses for the aircraft maintenance engineering issued by DGCA. Sir, we are all very happy to have you, sir. We all welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for engraving the profile of our chief guest today.
What you do today can improve all your tomorrows. I'm very proud to call our today's chief guest, Dr. U.S. Paul Russell, Senior Assistant General Manager, Maintenance Training Organization, Air India Engineering Service Limited, Trivandrum, to address the young minds.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the nice introduction. And then thanks for calling me to address this webinar on a quite interesting topic called avionics systems in modern aircraft. So can any one of you give a feedback? I'm quite audible.
Yeah, is it audible, sir? Clear, very clear.
Thank you.
Clear, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So at the outset, I'd like to thank Krishna Kumar. He is the CEO and Secretary of the Nehru Group of Institutions for having me in this webinar. Then Mr. Ramesh Babu, who is a training manager to whom I have interacted a lot. And then Dr. Balaji, who is the dean. Then respected professors and all the friends. So I'm so thankful to you once again that we'll be just discussing about what avionics means and why avionics is there in the aircraft, and then how these avionics systems are protecting the aircraft from any possible disasters. So before I go further, I would like to give my email ID to the participants. And in case you need to share anything with me, probably we may not have much time to take all of your questions. And in case you would like to ask me any questions or anything, you can use this email ID, and generally I reply within 24 hours so that we will be in touch and then we can interact. Now, this is the outline of my talk, which I am planning to do with you, but quite briefly, as there is a time constraint. And I would like to say what is avionics, or what avionics means for modern civil, military, and general aircraft. Of course, there are some hairline differences once we talk about military systems, then general aircraft and civil aircraft which carry passengers. And we'll just talk about what avionics means for these different aircraft systems in aviation. Secondly, let us talk about what are the typical drivers for avionics system development and why avionics systems are quite important and why it is adopted in aircraft more and more. And depending upon the application of the aircraft, up to the cost of up to 85% of the cost of the aircraft can be given for the avionics. So again, it depends upon the application. So what are the drivers? So we will talk about that. Then some latest concepts I would like to introduce. This, as a lot of graduate engineers are also listening to that might be helpful to them. So once they are going out to design the systems in the aircraft. So I'll just talk about what is ATM, Air Transport Management, Integrated Modular Avionics, then Line Replaceable Module, and what does it mean? And then what is the emerging field in these areas? Then I'd like to talk about the primary systems which are totally digital now. The primary systems in the sense, the systems which are very important to fly the aircraft quite safely.
Sir, your mic is muted. Can you please unmute? Sir? Your mic is muted. Can you please unmute yourself, sir? You are not audible now.
Am I audible now? Is it okay?
Yeah, you are audible, sir. You are audible now.
I think what is the last point? Can you say? I'll repeat once again.
Sir, it was 2 slides before this, sir.
Okay, fine.
Sir, it is regarding the drives of avionics something.
Okay. Anyway, now please indicate, because sometimes things can happen like that in webinars. Please, inform me if at all anything is not visible or anything.
So the slide, it was reading that avionics. What is avionics? First slide maybe.
Yeah, fine. I'm audible, right? So that's what I'm concerned.
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Very clear.
Okay, fine. Okay, this slide is visible now.
Yes, sir. Visible.
Yes, sir. Outline. It is visible.
Okay, fine. Okay. So I'll just talk about the outline once again. What avionics means for modern civil, military, and general aircraft. Then why avionics should be there and why avionics is so developed. That's what I call it as the typical drivers. Then certain latest concepts which are used in modern aircraft called air transport management, integrated modular avionics, and line replaceable modules. Then I'd like to talk about the digital primary systems in the aircraft. Digital primary system in the sense for safe operation aircraft, what are the flight control systems which are to be the aircraft. And nowadays, there is no mechanical backup for the systems. It's digitally controlled. And once the system reliability has increased to very high level, so we need not have a mechanical backup. And thereby, there are a lot of weight saving for the aircraft. So we'll talk about that as well. Then various dangerous situations in aviation, I'll touch upon, and how these avionics and communication systems, which can help avoiding such hazardous conditions in aviation. So this will be quite interesting, but I will not be able to talk much about the current accident, but still how avionics systems are protecting the aircraft from all the possible disasters we will discuss. That will be quite interesting part of this lecture. Then I would like to just introduce on human factors and ergonomics which are to be adapted in the design of avionics systems for the improvement of safety. And possibly the AME students can understand what human factors and ergonomics subjects are all about. But the graduates engineers who are attending, maybe it is just an introduction. And when you design any avionics systems, you can adapt the principles of these human factors and ergonomics so that your designed product will be one of the best products and it is not prone to any accidents. And now, just to talk about the fly-by-wire, fly-by-light and hybrid technology concepts in the latest aircraft. Then various sensors, instrumentation, electrical power, communication, navigation, emergency equipment, and all these things are having a lot of modern principles and modern technological innovations which can be seen in these things. So I'll just try to touch upon them. Then the carbon nanotubes which are used or which are emerging as the best material to construct the aircraft. Then 4-dimensional navigation systems, the flight management system, and so on. Now, when I talk about these things, I would like to take some examples, live examples of the aircraft. So possibly I'll be discussing about Airbus 380 and Boeing 787 Dreamliners and how these things are organized. These latest equipment, otherwise latest technology are organized in these two aircraft I'll be talking about. In fact, Airbus 380, the production is now stopped because of the size of the aircraft is too high and it's over capacity. But technologically, it is one of the best aircraft. And of course, for the discussion, we will take up the next series of aircraft, Airbus A350, and which is one of the best. Now, if time permits, I'll just talk about automatic flight control systems in modern aircraft. But if not possible, maybe in some other webinars, we'll continue that. Now, as this group is having variety of participants from the graduate stream, from the AME stream, and so on, I would like to go quite basic as far as possible so that everybody will be able to understand the basics. You will be able to study further so that you can understand much better, or you can get into deeper into the subject as well. Now, what avionics means, it's a general definition, but the simplest definition can be put like this. It's a branch of engineering which deals with electrical sciences in aircraft. Any electrical sciences application which is there in the aircraft, that's called avionics. Of course, nowadays avionics is there in the airports, in the satellites, in the rockets, in the missiles, everywhere. So we have slight differences in the avionics systems depending upon what is the type of application in all these different areas. But any electrical sciences application when you take, which is applicable to the avionics. Now, why avionics should be there in the aircraft? When you talk about that, there are many reasons why avionics should be there. But I just try to put all these things inside the three reasons. One is automation, then control, and enhanced safety. So these are the three reasons why avionics should be there in the aircraft. Now, automation is concerned, of course, probably you are aware of nowadays. So we will be able to operate the aircraft without any manual controls, or even without pilot, we'll be able to operate the aircraft. So ultimate automation we are able to see, and that is only because of advancements in avionics systems, we are able to see that. So automation is the best available now, in the sense, the best possible manner automation is incorporated in the aircraft. Now, for flying from one station to another station, so there is a computer called a flight management computer or flight management system, in which we just enter the codes of the cities. Maybe from Trivandrum to Delhi, the aircraft has to fly. So we just put the code for Trivandrum, maybe DRV, then Delhi DEL, or some other equivalent code. Only this code is to be inserted, and how to fly the aircraft and everything is taken from the computer itself. And computer can automatically fly the aircraft en route along the path in which we have already decided, in the same height which we decided, same speed, and then aircraft can land, and then aircraft can be brought to parking bay. So everything can be automatic, and this is at its best right now. Now, controlling the aircraft, we call nowadays the systems which are put in the aircraft are zero cross track error system. It means the aircraft will not have any cross track. It always flies in the required track itself or desired track itself. So when the aircraft is flying, it follows the track for which we have already intended to. So there will not be any deviation. So the controlling of the aircraft very effectively and very optimally is possible with the help of avionics. Then enhancing safety is very important, because civil aviation is concerned, we are always concerned about the safety of the passengers and the safety of the aircraft. So we have to give a lot of importance, and that is also achieved through avionics systems. Nowadays, what we see in the development of avionics systems are concerned, we see more of electricity or electric application in the aircraft. So we call them as more electric aircraft. Airbus 380, 350, then this series, they come under this category called more electric aircraft. More electric aircraft, what I mean is electricity is used for most of the crucial functions in the aircraft. Now, previously, we used to have pneumatic systems for air conditioning. So pneumatic systems for air conditioning, then heating, and for many other purposes, this pneumatic air is used. The hot air is used for heating, then engine starting, pressurization, for all these purposes. All these air is withdrawn from the engine. At certain part of the engine, they are just tapped. So that concept is now gone. Now we do everything with the help of electricity. That's what the aircraft is called, more electric aircraft. And here, so we have a lot of advantages, like once we are not tapping the engine power, so naturally the efficiency of the engine is very high, and we are able to have uninterrupted power supply in the aircraft. So more electric aircraft has become a reality now. Now, so systems are more integrated as well. So systems are more integrated. What I mean is nowadays, with the help of VLSI technology, which is used in the aircraft systems for building the aircraft systems, and we have the SOC, system on chip, lab on chip, and all those latest concepts through which these computers in the aircraft are designed. So they are more integrated. So it has a lot of advantages anyway, like lightweight, less power consumption, less heat emission, and high reliability, and so on. So I'll be just showing you some of the equipment which are more integrated, and more electric aircraft systems. How do they look like? Now, interestingly, automation, I just wanted to give a little more importance to you. So in the modern aircraft, of course, we need to have only these three controls in some form or other. That is land, fly, and off. These are the three controls which are basically required. Of course, this is not so simplified like this. This picture is oversimplified one. But we just see land, fly, and off. These are the three controls which are to be controlled. Rest everything is automatic. But always remember, automation will never replace me. That's what a human statement. So there is a human element which is always available. If I ask you a question that will you be comfortable to fly an aircraft where there is no cockpit and no pilots and only passengers are sitting and your flight is taking off and landing in a destination? So we need to have pilots in the cockpit in the aircraft itself. So whatever be the automation available, but the human element is always there at many points. For the design, construction, then maintenance, then operation of the aircraft, we need to have a human element also. And I always say this, in the 3rd grade, our teacher would have told, quit staring out of the window, because when you grow up, no one will pay you to sit there and just look out of the window. And probably many of us had this experience. Sometimes when the lecture is so boring, we feel like just looking at out of the window, and that will be quite interesting. So now, just to look at what the pilots are doing now. In this scenario of a very high automation or very heavy automation, everything is done automatically, but pilots are still on board, and they are just looking outside, looking at the clouds. And of course, I always say their office, the pilot's office, is so cramped, so small, and they are tied up with a belt. And then what they see outside is not very interesting scenario, so only clouds. But computers look after everything there in the flight. But of course, the presence of human is very important at the juncture of failure of any of these computers or groups of computers. So they have to take over, and they are given with a great responsibility of saving the aircraft. Now, coming to the next part, I would like to say why avionics. What are the functional areas of the avionics? This particular functional areas, when we discuss, it might vary slightly or with some additions or deletions with the civil aircraft, military aircraft, and general aircraft. But I just talk about civil aircraft based one. So these are the different functional areas of avionic systems. One is aircraft instrument systems. What we mean by instrument systems. So there are a lot of physical parameters available in and around the aircraft when the aircraft is flying. So it means when the aircraft is flying, we need to measure the temperature, pressure, speed, altitude. There are a lot of parameters which are to be measured. All these things are to be measured quite accurately, and then they are to be processed, calibrated, and then they are to be displayed. So sensing, processing, display, and then using those signals or using those parameters for the purpose of control of the aircraft. All these things are included in the aircraft instrument systems. And what we see of late is the latest technologies in this area, like smart sensors, and then very sophisticated computers for the processing. All these things we see here as well. So aircraft instrument systems, the normal instrumentation functions, but then they are very sophisticated, which are available in the aircraft. Secondly, we could see aircraft electrical systems, which is a very developed one now. So I'll be just showing you some of the pictures later about what is really available in the aircraft. So electrical systems are concerned. The main requirement of this electrical system is uninterrupted, good quality power supply should be always available in the aircraft. And that is for the purpose of operating all the aircraft systems, computers, then for the lighting purpose, for the communication purpose, for everything, we need electricity, which should not fail at any cost. So we have engine-driven generators, engines, and we have auxiliary power units. We have batteries, and we have static inverters, and all these things which are unique to the electrical system, they are all available in the aircraft. Now, we can say the generation, distribution, utilization of these electrical component, the electrical systems, everything is quite neatly organized in the aircraft. And interestingly, one point I would like to say, the power rating is always in most of the aircraft, it's about 115 volt AC, 400 hertz, and that is used, possibly 3-phase. That's what the generated power. So 400 hertz is a standard in avionics. That is because we are able to make a smaller generators if it is 400 hertz frequency at the output. But this type of generation of fixed voltage is going to create a lot of problem for the avionics systems. So in the modern aircraft, they have just gone to a wild frequency power supply, that is a variable frequency power supply, and this frequency is stabilized at the user end itself. So that way, the electrical systems are quite sophisticated and they are used now. Now, radio communication systems are again very advanced now. We have VHF, UHF, then HF communication system, out of which VHF and HF are quite common in civil aviation systems. And they are used for two purposes, that is for voice communication as well as data communication. So the voice communication, so using these frequency bands, we'll be able to talk from aircraft to aircraft, or from ground station to the aircraft, or aircraft to the ground station, and so on. So completely the aircraft can be quite informed, or the data available in the aircraft can be just communicated using this radio communication system. Of course, of late we have this data communication system quite popular. So we call them as ACARS system, ACARS, Airing Communication Addressing and Reporting System, ACARS, and through which the complete happening in the aircraft, all the data, there are about 3,000 different parameters are created in real time in the aircraft, in a typical aircraft, and all these data can be made available to the ground in real time. So it means on ground, we'll be able to monitor completely what is happening in the aircraft in its hardware as well as in its operation, and ground will be able to keep track of everything. And what I feel in future, this DFDR or CVR, that black boxes, that requirement may not be very much, because all these data, they are transmitted to ground in real time itself now. Of course, probably you might be using the Flight Radar 24 sort of applications where you will be able to live track the aircraft. And that is one way of data communication. The data communication from the transponder system of the aircraft is available. And that is just put in a server, and then it is given in that app for all of us to see where is the aircraft right now and what height it is flying, and then what's the speed, and all of the data. Now, navigation system is something very important again. With the navigation systems, of course, we will be able to steer the aircraft in the right path. Of course, there are many different types of navigation systems, and we have inertial navigation system, we have GPS, global positioning system, and there are so many other navigational systems which are available, combination of old one and latest one, and so on. So all these navigational systems, some of them are put in the aircraft, and they operate quite well with a great accuracy. And this navigation system are also part of this avionics. So as I told, avionics has different functional areas, like these things what I told: instrument, electrical, radio communication, and navigation systems. So when it goes to the military aircraft, of course, we have weapon delivery, we have surveillance, we have additional avionics circuits or avionics systems which are put in place. But as I am limiting my talk to the civil systems, and these are the main avionics functional areas. Now, talking about typical drivers for commercial avionics, see, there are a lot of drivers. It means if there is a demand, then that particular system development will take place using the latest technologies which are available in that area. So if you just look at the pilot interface, the display technology, then the human factors, crew workload, safety, passenger comfort, and these are the areas which I feel which are the drivers, where because of these reasons, that latest technologies are getting applied into the aviation system. Pilot interface is very important. Pilots, how they are communicating with the aircraft and the aircraft systems. It may be previously using the push buttons or switches, or using the meters, or dial type instruments, and so on. Of course, nowadays voice assisted controls are available, touch screens are available, that UHD displays are available. So how the systems are getting interfaced with the pilot, we have what is latest available in this area, that is this applied there. Display technology, that is also quite good. I'll be showing some of the latest cockpit to you later, and you'll be able to appreciate the fact that the current display technology, how it is used in the aircraft cockpit. Of course, crew workload is concerned. The crew workload is to be reduced to the minimum. But meanwhile, if absolutely no workload, in that case, of course, there can be a human issue like a complacency can set in, and that is again not very good, because there is a question we ask always: how much automation is good for the aviation system? So where 100% automation is good, or we have to stop somewhere else. So crew workload is reduced, safety is increased, and passenger comfort. Of course, we are able to give nowadays Wi-Fi in the cabin itself, and we are able to give the required movies and then songs and all those things. And there are a lot of comfort given to the passengers, and passengers are quite sensitive to these comfort also when they are selecting the particular airline and then aircraft. Now, this was my next point. So 2000 onwards, all the aircraft which are designed, the digital primary systems with no mechanical backup. That's what the order of the day. So whenever a crucial system is to be designed, so we have electronic control of everything of that, but then we keep a mechanical backup also. Say, for example, in Airbus 320, which is one of the most successful aircraft in the world. So we have digital controls, digital equipment for controlling everything, digital computers, but then the rudder systems are having a mechanical backup. So, but now the time has come that digital primary systems with no mechanical backup. Of course, for the engine, we have already achieved this control, which we call it as full authority digital engine control, FADEC, FADEC, FADEC. And with this FADEC, we are able to control the engine fully automatic using the digital computers. Now, for the airframe systems, also this digital primary with no mechanical backup has come. This was the latest one picture which I could I wanted to show to highlight this particular point. So the mechanical interface you can see in the left half of the picture. So there is a mechanical linkage from the cockpit to the rudder in Airbus 320. But whereas the electrical interface is the order of the day, so that is replaced by ELAC, elevator, aileron computer, and SEC, spoiler elevator computer, and all those things. So with these computers, we are able to replace totally the mechanical interface. Of course, the advantage is weight saving and more reliability. Now, once we have these concepts like self-healing electronic circuits, which is the latest concept, the computer can find out its failure and correct by itself. And all these concepts are available. The reliability of the computer has gone to very high. Once the computer reliability is very high, we are able to eliminate the mechanical interface. And a lot of equipment which are shown here in this slide, they are all deleted. They are no more available, and the electronically controlled, where the precision of this control of aircraft is also going to be quite good compared to these actuator-based controls or hydraulic-based controls. Now, weight saving in Airbus 320, only for this particular replacement of rudder system is about 40 kg, and a lot of fuel saving, fuel efficiency, and maintenance cost reduction. And again, rudder trim failure no longer impact the autopilot availability. What I mean to say is one common failure which is noted is a rudder trim failure, and that failure is no more encountered when we have this e-rudder which is available in the aircraft. Now, this is a question which I already told you, how much automation is good for aviation. Of course, the older generation aircraft used to have a lot of controls as shown in the picture left side, whereas right side we have control like up and down only. That's what the control required. You know what I wanted to say, the minimum control is required nowadays to fly the aircraft. But I'd like to just share my thought to you. Airbus as well as Boeing are the two leading manufacturers of aircraft in the world, and there is a basic design philosophy difference with them. So Boeing always feels that the intelligence required to control the aircraft in a crucial time, that is always to be given to the humans, whereas Airbus concept is the intelligence required to control the aircraft during crucial times is to be given to the computer in the form of an intelligence. So that way, in the basic design concept itself, there is a difference, but still, which one is better if you just wanted to find out? And it is like comparing oranges and apples to find out which one is better. Both are better, but always there is a need to answer this question: how much automation is good for aviation? 100% automation is good, or we have to stop at some level and give some human intervention in between. Now, frequently I talked about there are computers available in the aircraft and how these computers look like in the modern aircraft. So here I wanted to bring in a latest concept called integrated modular avionics, particularly for the graduate engineering friends who are listening to me. So they can just give a little concentration on that, and that will be quite useful, because when you design a computer which is put in the aircraft, you can use this concept as well. Now, when we just look at various computers in the aircraft, so the computers, they look like this. Here I have presented the TCAS, Traffic Alert and Collision Avoidance System, DME, Distance Measuring Equipment, ATC, Air Traffic Control, VHF Omni Range, VOR, Automatic Direction Finder, ADF. So like this, we have different computers which are normally located in the avionics compartment, below the cockpit floorboard. So here what we see is the floorboard, that blue color, this blue color one. Just let me take the laser pointer to you. Yeah, this particular floorboard, and below the floorboard, like racks like this. In that racks, these computers are located. And these computers generally, in the old generation computers, we used to have the front portion like this. There are a lot of LEDs to show the serviceability condition of the computer, and there is a test push button. And when we want to test the serviceability of the computer, we can press this test push button, and these lights will come on to show the serviceability. Red color lights come on means there is something wrong, and the green light comes on to show everything is fine. So these computers are located in the avionics compartment, and this compartment is a fireproof compartment. It means more cooling at some crucial places. It has some fireproof walls which are located for safeguarding the crucial computers, and they are cooled by the air conditioned air, as well as sometimes blower is also used at some places. So ultimately, these computers which are there in the avionics compartment, what I'm trying to show is avionics compartment of Boeing 747, which is one of the largest aircraft. Now, these computers which are there in the avionics compartment, typically there are about 80 to 100 computers, or even more with some of the big aircraft. All these computers are quite unique. So they do only that specific function. Say, for example, that the previous slide where you could see the TCAS computer. TCAS computer will be doing only the traffic alert and collision avoidance. And then DME will be measuring the distance measuring equipment. And the TCAS will not be able to do that DME function. And DME computer will not be able to do TCAS function. This point you need to remember. So all these computers are quite unique in nature. So they do only the specific functions. And what we call it as LRU, line replaceable unit, LRU1, LRU2, LRU3, or ABC, whatever be the designation given, they are all available in the aircraft. for different functions. But now in the latest concept, which I call it as IMA, Integrated Modular Avionics. So the design goes like this. All these LRUs are these unique different computers, and all these functionalities will be available in a single computer itself. This concept has evolved for this reason. If aircraft is having 80 different computers, as we have in Airbus 320, and when the aircraft is operating some 50 destinations or 50 stations the aircraft is operating. So at any place, any computer can go back. So we need to have an inventory of these computers in all the stations. So each station will have about 20-25 computers which are put as an inventory. And if anything goes bad when the aircraft arrives to the station, then we will be able to replace it with the serviceable computer. That's the way to maintain the aircraft at the line stations, so that with the minimum time disruption, we are able to make the aircraft serviceable. So we will not be going to chip level or board level servicing there. So we'll be just replacing the computers at the line stations. Then for those type of maintenance of board level or chip level, we have other shops, avionics shops available, and there only we'll be able to do that. Now, these computers, what I'm talking about, is quite expensive. So they may cost from say 25 to 50 lakhs up to 2 crores each computers. Now think of the volume of inventory which we have to keep in all the stations. It is so huge. We have 80 different computers. We have all the 80 spares in 50 stations. When you keep, each one is costing about say 1 crore. We have huge inventory cost. And to reduce that one, this concept, integrated modular avionics, has arrived. And it is very frequently used in the modern design, modern aircraft. Flight control that program, put the landing gear control program and use that computer for the purpose of landing gear control. So like this, same computer, by only loading the software relevant to that function, we will be able to use that computer for that purpose. Now, there is a lot of demand, which I see in the industry, that the people who are quite specialized in design of integrated modular avionics. So I encourage you to take up a small project on this, or publish a term paper or a paper on this. And these will give you a chance to study a lot of ideas, to study more about this integrated modular avionics. And there is a lot of demand right now in the industry for the people. Those who are doing electrical, electronics and communication, instrumentation, all these disciplines, they will be able to do it, because maybe some coding is required to be put in, maybe Python based programming, all those things, which is quite simpler to do that. Only thing, the avionics principles you need to understand, and the functionality of the computer you need to understand. Hope I make it clear to you. So the purpose is to avoid a huge inventory cost. So we have now IMA concept put in place. IMA concept in the sense, same computer hardware, and which can be programmed to use it as different functionalities. And now this what LRU A, B, C, different computers, and each one is having a different application, and these applications can be put in a single computer itself in the integrated modular avionics. So at the most, what we require in any station is maybe 3-4 of these computers and a programming module. That's what required. Rest everything can be done there itself quite easily. And this concept has just caught up now in aviation. Now, you have to remember another point in mind when you design the computers, or in all the latest aircraft. So we have a particular communication standard which is used. Previously we have ARINC 429 standard, ARINC 629 standard, and certain MIL standard 1554, and so many standards which are used. But the modern computer, some modern aircraft, they have a standard which is used called Avionics Full Duplex Switched Ethernet. So Avionics Full Duplex Switched Ethernet, AFDX, is the standard which is used. So I want you to study a little bit if you are having interest in this particular subject, because any avionics system is concerned, the modern avionics systems will follow this standard in the aircraft, AFDX. So there are a lot of benefits of this AFDX. it can go up to, it can transmit up to, 1 Gbps speed if fiber optic cables are used. So, but that much speed is not required in aviation systems, but then it will be more efficient when we use this one. And when you are designing a computer, so you need to remember all your input and output sections should follow this particular standard, AFTX. Now, with all these IMA, AFTX, all these concepts which are put in, Airbus 380 has seen these differences, very high reliability of the systems. Systems are not going to fail, and very easier fault finding. Fault finding is one of the very, very important thing as far as maintenance is concerned. So where things have gone wrong, it can be a wiring, or it can be a sensor, or it can be anything there, or the computer, or anything. So we have very advanced systems for easier fault finding. Then very updatable and simplified systems available in the aircraft. Now, this one example I would like to show you in 777 aircraft, Boeing 777 aircraft. So we have for the flight control systems, this much computers which are doing the flight control system functions. But look at that Boeing 787, all these functionalities in a much improved manner is done by only these 3 boxes. So that's what initially I was telling you, more integrated aircraft. So the computers which have hybrid circuitry inside, that is replaced by the VLSI based circuits which are designed to construct these computers. So in 777 and 787, we find a lot of differences like this. So when the aircraft is getting better, more reliable, less weight, all those usual advantages are available here. Now, one concept which has come, I just wanted to say and just to go on. So we have a maintenance laptop in aircraft maintenance right now. So when the aircraft just comes and gets parked in the parking bay, so we can connect the aircraft using these computer with the help of a Wi-Fi, and we have access to all the aircraft systems right now. So we will be able to set the CB, reset the CB, change the threshold, and do some test functions. All these things can be done remotely by connecting this maintenance laptop with the aircraft through Wi-Fi. And that is one of the innovations right now done, so that a single person will be able to attend to many aircraft in a lesser amount of time. So that way, this is just catching up the maintenance laptop. Now, 2 concepts have come in called less paper cockpit and paperless cockpit. Now, there are a lot of equipment which are available in the cockpit. And in addition to that equipment, pilots used to carry a big bag. And that bag contains a lot of books, a lot of manuals, and a lot of paperwork. And all this paperwork is to be minimized. And that is a point. The result is the less paper cockpit. Most of the manuals, most of the other documents are electronically available. In a system like this, there is a display, and this particular display called onboard information terminal, or sometimes we call it as electronic flight bag as well. So in the electronic flight bag, the manuals are just put in. They are not carried in the flight bag, and they are put in here. And only the mandatory papers which are to be signed and carried on board, they are carried. So that's what we call it as less paper cockpit. But now, of late, of course, we have paperless cockpit, and no paper is carried, and everything is electronically available, including the maintenance, these mandatory documents. So that is the concept available now. So we have paperless cockpit. So you can just see a keyboard and cursor control unit, which is available here in the pedestal. So using that, we'll be able to maneuver and then access all the manuals, all the data which are available in the aircraft. Now, let me just tell you the next part. What are the dangerous situations in aviation, and how avionics is helping to overcome these situations? And interestingly, flying is the most safe mode of air travel in the world. And how it is made possible? only with the help of avionic systems. And now there can be design related issues, hardware related, environmental factors, or human issues. All these things will be available. And these are the major reason for these hazards which are available in the aircraft. Now, the skies are always full, airports are quite tight, operational complexities are great, and thereby the margin of error is very, very low. If any person who is associated with the aviation system commits a mistake, and that can be quite erratic or quite dangerous. Maybe a design engineer at the design stage itself, or a manufacturing side, there is an error, or it can be in the maintenance, or it can be in the operation at any point of time. That's what it is very, very crucial to have all these systems, all these things. We need to check and put everything in place. So air density of the world is concerned. It is one of the pictures just to show what is the air density at a given point of time in the aircraft. When so much aircraft is operating, and even though Earth is very huge, but still, these aircraft, they operate with a high speed. When they are in the high speed, so naturally, if anyone associated with the aviation system commits a mistake, that's going to be quite dangerous. Now, if the air traffic is something going to be like this, if you're sitting in the aircraft and you see the traffic like this, it is going to be so scary. But so the avionics systems, they are there to mitigate all these errors. Once all these errors are mitigated, we have a safe flight. But however, when accidents happen, a sign like this, so we become quite emotional as we are getting attached with the aircraft. And secondly, so many lives are lost and so many dreams are lost, and it is irreparable. Now, let me just tell you certain occasions where avionics is just saving the aircraft. One is about hydroplaning. So hydroplaning is a phenomena wherever the runway is dirty with a lot of dust, or it may be with water level, and hydroplaning can occur. I'm not going deeper into that because of want of time. And aircraft can just go off the runway, and it can just fall in the sea or any water bodies available nearby, or it can just a scenario can be something like this. It can be anything like this. So these runway excursions and runway overruns happen in the world quite often. And of course, now we have sensors available in the landing gear, and these sensors, and they give a proper signal to the landing gear and braking system. And this we have auto brake and then anti-skid and all those systems which are put in place. And because of this, it is quite, we will not be just getting into this type of accidents presently. These are some of the pictures which happened somewhere in the world some years back. It's about some 10, 15 years back. So the aircraft gets off the runway and it goes to the land like this, muddy land, and then gets spoiled completely. So remember, this type of maintenance cannot be done in the aircraft. So always we have to ensure that before start of the flight itself, everything is working properly. And just coming out and giving a rotation and going back, that is not possible. So I always say this: the propeller is just a big fan in front of the plane, used to keep the pilot very cool, because when it stops, you can actually watch the pilot start sweating. So here, the point I wanted to tell you is that all the systems, if it is in the normal automobile system, if it malfunctions on the way, then we can just pull it over and then attend to that and then go. But in aviation, it is not possible. So ultimately, so we have to have very reliable systems put in place. So here the engine got totally damaged in one of the accident happened a decade, 10 years back almost. Now, there is a phenomena called the wind shear microburst phenomena. And this happens at some of the airports, particularly the airports which are very close to the mountains or near the sea, where there is a cloud, and from the phenomena, there will be strong wind from top to bottom. And whenever this wind from top to bottom comes and touches ground, it just moves upward. So there is two directions of the wind, and this is called wind shear. Now, in this picture, you are able to see that when the aircraft is operating in this particular path, and the pilot is able to see there is a cloud phenomena or a thunderstorm available at a distance, but that is not on the way. But when the aircraft is moving, that also just moved there, and that possibility, and because of that, the aircraft can get into danger. Now, if you have very adverse weather conditions, so like this, if it is raining, when the aircraft is just passing through this type of areas, then prior to passing through itself, pilot should know what is the condition of the aircraft available en route or in front of the aircraft. Okay, let me just come back to the wind shear. So if there is a cloud base, there can be strong wind from top to bottom, and then the wind just after touching ground changes its direction and goes up. Now let us say aircraft is on the path for landing. So during landing, the aircraft is heavily constrained. We will not be able to have a lot of allowances for the recovery. So we have a unique and single path for the aircraft to land. So when the aircraft is landing, this part of the this wind will try to lift the aircraft up because they are with a high velocity. So they will try to lift the aircraft to certain level, because during landing, the energy level of the aircraft also will be lesser because of less thrust. But then this will be pushing the aircraft up. But when the aircraft gains some altitude, pilot will not be able to touch down in the proper touchdown zone. So he will try to bring down the aircraft and align with the glide slope or the runway landing systems. But then when he is entering into this place, there is a strong wind from top to bottom. This wind just lifts the aircraft up, but this wind will be just pushing the aircraft down. So this phenomena is quite dangerous. And if this is available, that is to be checked. That is to be corrected. The aircraft is to be corrected by going around or avoiding this type of conditions at the distance itself. So for that, systems are developed now. We have an avionics for this at a distance itself. So which we call it as predictive wind shear system. The caution is given, and in front of the aircraft, there is a wind shear phenomena going on, and warning is given as he approaches. So at that particular point, the aircraft can just move away from this. You can go around and come back and then land. So that is possible. But then there is a system, little older system called a reactive wind shear system, and that will give an alert to the aircraft only when the aircraft is within this area only. So that time, much time will not be available for the pilot to escape this particular phenomena. So, but then constructing a predictive wind shear system is really a challenge. So far, a perfect predictive wind shear system is not available, and there is a lot of research going on. And maybe you can try to do as a part of a project in your studies whether a predictive wind shear system can be constructed involving or using the latest technologies. So right now, when the wind shear detection is done, a wind shear message comes in the cockpit in the display like this, as well as a voice alert, wind shear, wind shear, wind shear will be heard in the cockpit. Of course, the NASA, FAA, many private authorities, they are all trying to construct a better wind shear protection system, which may be put in place maybe shortly. But then I'll say the cost-effective system, which we can also try to design and publish a paper, at least a design concept or design idea. So that will be quite interesting. Now, the wind shear, if it can be seen to the naked eye, it will be something like this. But unfortunately, the wind shear cannot be seen. When the pilot is approaching, if the wind shear can be seen, it can be seen, but it cannot be seen to the naked eye. So pilot will be approaching with the confidence that there is everything is clear, but then there may be a wind shear going on. That's what very important thing to note here. Now, at the front portion of the aircraft, at this particular area, so there is a reflector available, and that is connected with the transceiver weather radar. And the weather radar enables detection position of adverse weather conditions. And this was the display of the weather radar system. So this particular line, green line, is the aircraft path. And if it is black color, or if it is this green color, then the cloud concentration is almost nil. If it is yellow color, there is a cloud concentration which you need to be careful. And if it is red, you need to avoid that cloud concentration. So this type of display is available in the cockpit. And whenever that display is available, so pilot will be able to see at a distance itself what is the cloud en route or in front of the aircraft, and he will be able to protect himself. This is what that weather radar unit looks like. It is a modern unit. It's a flat plate antenna is used. Previously, a parabolic reflector is used, but now it is a flat plate antenna. The latest in the radar engineering is used here to send and receive the signals quite effectively. And this receiver transmitter module is available without any waveguide connection. So that's what the efficiency is quite. Waveguide is quite smaller here with a small area. Now, at the nighttime conditions, the rain available in the airport area will be increasing the brilliance of the airport landing system. So like this, in this picture, you can see the airport landing system lights, and these lights are quite illuminating in different colors in different ways. There is a meaning for each color and where it is used and so on. That intensity and everything matters a lot. But whenever there is something like rain particles, and then there will be reflections from the rain also. And because of this, there is a chance that some optical illusion could occur, and a proper landing place may not be visible to the pilot. So in that particular condition, very good equipment, landing equipment will be able to help. Next is about the terrain awareness. What you are seeing is an accident site. So it happened in Germany. It happened in many places in the world. And here what we see is the runway here, and there is a mountain. And this side of the mountain, there is a city. So let us consider the city here, mountain here, and then runway here. So the aircraft approaches crossing the city over the mountains and to the runway. Now, during the nighttime conditions particularly, so the city is heavily lit area, a lot of lights. Airport is also a heavily lit area, but a small patch of land here where a high-rise mountain is available and which is quite dark. So this can create some sort of optical illusion, as well as this type of approach is done. During that time, any disruption or any cockpit distractions take place, it can be quite dangerous. So we call this type of accidents as CFIT accidents, controlled flight into terrain accidents. You are able to see an accident happened here. So the aircraft is quite controlled. It is perfectly all right, but still it hits some of the terrain, some of the mountains or a high-rise building or anything. Now, 44% of the fatalities were because of these CFIT accidents previously. And in some cases, it was up to 85% of the fatalities. Now, we have made one equipment now called EGPWS, that is Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System, and which is a quite advanced one now with additional functionalities like wind shear warning and a high bank angle warning and so many things. And this particular equipment, which is put in the place, now the accidents for this reason, CFIT, has reduced to minimum now. Now, all the aircraft which are recently manufactured, they are fitted with this equipment, and that the equipment, that the aircraft which are manufactured quite earlier, so they are retrofitted with this equipment, Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System. And the operation is quite interesting. So what we have here is some database regarding what are the high-rise buildings available and what are the mountains available. So like this, all these things which are there in the earth, they are all mapped, and then they made it as a database and put in the GPWS equipment. So it is quite interesting, and 40 MB itself, they are able to compress that complete data of at which place, what is the height of the terrain available. So now the aircraft present position can be ascertained from the navigational system. That is, the latitude, longitude of the aircraft can be ascertained very accurately. And the data from the database is taken, and that gives in the path of the aircraft what are the constraints, or what are these high-rise buildings and mountains available. And that is given a picture like this in the cockpit. In the cockpit, when we see a picture like this, is a more grainy picture compared to the weather radar. So here, so this is the path of the aircraft, and the green color shows the terrain is well below the present height of the aircraft. Yellow color shows the terrain is almost close to the aircraft height, and we have to be careful. But red color shows the terrain is above your level. So if this mapping, maybe around 200 nautical mile ahead of the aircraft is available, so pilot will be able to get ready and then take the aircraft to a safe height. So this equipment really helps mitigating a lot of accidents. Then coming to some unstabilized approach which happens in the old type of aircraft, this type of aircraft is no more flying for the civil operations in most of the operators. So when aircraft landing is attempted with more landing speed, or if the weight of the aircraft is quite high, and this type of breakage can occur. But nowadays we have the fuselage of the aircraft manufactured by carbon fiber reinforced plastic. This is the common material, composite material by which it is made, carbon fiber reinforced plastic. And this type of accidents are quite lesser. Now, this carbon nanotube has just come. Military aircraft, they are getting constructed using this carbon nanotubes, which are 200 times stronger than steel and 100 times lighter than steel. And possibly next generation material is going to be this type of material. Then crosswind can be also quite dangerous, because heavy wind. Imagine this side as a sea, and heavy wind is there which can displace the aircraft, and the correction may not be always possible. So when this type of situation happens, the flight management computer in the aircraft, that will advise the pilot and what is the action to be carried out and how to escape this type of crosswind, which are quite hazardous. Then this wind can do havoc. Aircraft wing can touch down. There's a high bank angle during a touchdown. So this wing breaks. Naturally, there is fuel inside the wing, and friction takes place. There is a chance of a huge fire accident. So all these things can be avoided by following the flight management computers, which in real time decides how to escape or how to protect the aircraft from this type of mishaps. Now, this is to talk about the traffic collision and avoidance system, and called TCAS. So whenever any aircraft is on the same level which is flying, whether it is visible to the naked eye or not, the system will be able to detect the presence of other aircraft, and then it gives an advisory to the pilot whether to go up or come down, or different traffic symbols are indicated. This is one of the worst accident happened in 1977, where two 747s collided with each other. One is still on the runway, that other aircraft tried to take off. And after this, construction of this type of equipment was just tried. In this accident, 583 people died. And now we have very good TCAS equipment which is put in place. So when two aircraft which are very close to each other, they are flying, and if they are violating the minimum, separation norms, we call it as near miss. So generally it is about 2,000 feet separation, but in some airspaces it can be 1,000 feet separation. So which we call it as RVSM airspace, reduced vertical separation minimum airspace. But here again, I just would like to give a small idea about a project. These TCAS computers are quite expensive, maybe 1 crore and more for a very sophisticated TCAS computers. Because of our, Indian rupee conversion rate, it is going to be quite high. So if this is a small aircraft, which is not fitted with TCAS. And this 747, where the pilot is sitting at this place at a very high level, he will not be able to see this aircraft. And the visibility is very low. It is very dangerous condition. Now, the cost of this aircraft may be about 70 lakhs or 80 lakhs or something like this. But we will not be able to put a computer of 1 crore worth of 1 crore inside this. So that way, there is a need to redesign this type of computers, which are TCAS. This was a TCAS computer presently available. This is a TCAS antenna, which is in the fuselage. Now, these computers can be redesigned. We can understand the functionality and then redesign using VLSI technology for a quite lesser cost and publish a paper. And somebody would like to manufacture it and sell to these smaller aircraft, and that will be quite useful to them. Now, this TCAS computer, when it detects another aircraft or other traffic, it is displayed like this. This is the path of the aircraft, and this is traffic which is not very dangerous, which is climbing, and this side there is a aircraft which is climbing, and now this symbol called filled diamond, this is a little dangerous. You have to be careful, and here you have to be more watchful. We call it as traffic advisory. This aircraft can come closer to you in the same level, but this this red circle is showing now a positive maneuver change is required. You got to go up or down to escape this aircraft. This aircraft is quite dangerous right now. So like this, traffic symbols are displayed in the cockpit, and from this computer the signal comes, and that gives an idea about what is available ahead of the aircraft regarding traffic is concerned. So ultimately, having said all these things, a mile of highway will take you just 1 mile, but a mile of runway will take you anywhere. But there is a star and condition supply. The condition is that all these systems should be serviceable and the human elements also. Now, this hailstone damage is again quite damaging. The hailstones which are there, they can damage the air intake area very adversely. And then these blades also can be bent. And then, these are all the damages which are seen using the hailstones. But when the hailstone damage occurs, the flight characteristics also will change. How to operate the aircraft, the minima, maxima, and all those things will change. So for that purpose, of course, we have embedded sensors available everywhere. And these embedded sensors will sense and then give the flight management system how to fly the aircraft, depending upon the condition prevailing at that particular point of time. So when we follow the flight management computer, the flying will be quite safer. Now, the leading edges of the engines, then leading edges of the wing, then various sensors, windscreens, propellers, all these things are to be heated, because when we go to the higher altitude, so ice formation can be there in all these things. So whenever ice is formed, then proper operation of the aircraft is hindered. So here, the air intake area, if ice is formed, then smooth airflow intake will not be there. Here, the aerodynamics of the aircraft will be changing if irregular pattern of the ice formation. So we need to heat all these surfaces. Previously, the heating is done with the help of pneumatic air tapped from the engine, but now electrical blanket heating is done. But all these heatings are to be done with the very in a controllable manner. It should be controlled quite efficiently. Of course, we have computers for that purpose as well. Of course, ice removal before the aircraft takes off, that is one phenomenon at some of the airports. Of course, in southern airports, we have only hottest 3 seasons, so we need not bother. But otherwise, ice removal before the flight, and then during the flight also, we have to prevent ice from forming. And bird hit damages are also seen quite often, where 2 major accidents aviation has witnessed, where that windshield broke because of the bird, and then it hit the pilot, and pilot died instantly. So this type of accidents are quite common. Bird hit accidents are quite common at the Indian airports as well. Now, the Hudson Bay accident, maybe some of you remember this, as rescue could reach there quite quickly, and they could save all the passengers. in this accident, both the engines are lost because of bird strike. And here, the wing is torn almost because of the bird strike. So one phenomena or one method is just to shoot these birds. That's what they did until some time back. But they are also flying, and they also have a flight school like this. So as they are also flying, so we have to be quite sympathetic to these lives. So we need to find out different methods how to scare away these birds from the airport area. Of course, they tried ultrasonic methods, high light, high concentrated light, and so on. But still, a very foolproof method is yet to emerge for this. Next is about the fire hazards. A lot of fire hazards are imminent in the aviation system, but we have very sophisticated fire sensors at various strategic places and fire extinguishers, which are also available at various places. Now, landing safety is important because it is estimated 44.5% of accidents happen when the aircraft is landing, because it's a very crucial point of time of the flight phase. Now, if you look at in this picture, there are many aircraft in the queue for landing, but then which one will be allowed to land first is quite dynamic. If this aircraft is first, but then this aircraft, they are exhausting fuel, and here there is an emergency, medical emergency. So like this, there will be varying priorities. So once the priority is dynamic, with the help of avionics only, we'll be able to manage air traffic control as well. At some of the Indian airports, we see about 15 to 20 aircraft in the queue for landing at a particular point of time. And now, without the help of computers, it is not possible. Otherwise, we'll be handling something like this as per the cartoon. But now we have very good sophisticated system put in place like this. It means we have a lot of avionic systems in the ATC, the air traffic control as well. Now, this type of 380 aircraft is very crucial to control such a big aircraft, which uses 5,000 psi hydraulic pressure for its flight control surfaces. Then 850 passengers is the maximum certified capacity for flying the aircraft. We have the best of all the technology. Everything is available here. So the interior can be quite different here, and at least the landing gear sequencing, to control all these tires, all these wheels itself is quite interesting, and a lot of technology is available there. Now, whenever lightning strikes the aircraft, of course, Ramesh here, I can just go another 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With pleasure, sir. Quite interesting, sir.
Okay, because I promised 4:15, but okay.
No. Quite interesting, sir. You take your own time, sir. No issue.
Okay. Maybe 4:30, I'll finish it up so that everybody will be comfortable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So nowadays, damage to aircraft structure due to lightning is seen at many places, but that is very minimal damage, and it is not going to affect the people in the who are in the aircraft. But increasingly, the communication and navigation equipment can be affected due to the static discharge, just which is happening. Now, in the modern aircraft, what is available is interwoven wire fabric available. You can see in this picture there are a lot of wire fabrics, which is part of the structure itself, and that's what the lightning protection to the equipment is given. Till some time back, we had to have a static discharger, but still lightning affects some of the equipment. But now in the modern aircraft, this type of wire fabric which protects the fuselage. This is as seen in 787 and the Airbus 350 as well. Now, this type of thunderstorm, which is available at a distance, when we look from the cockpit, we have a look, scenery like this, but we need to make an offset and fly. It will not be flying at the intended path, because on the path we have this thunderstorm. So the flight management computer available will advise suitably how to go to the offset and then how to bring back the aircraft to the original path and everything. Next point is that poor visibility during landing can be quite dangerous like this, because the runway is not visible due to fog. But in the extreme foggy conditions, the runway will be again like this. At that particular time, we have to have a GPS-assisted landing system, that is glide slope localizer system. There is a receiver, what we call multi-mode receiver now, which uses GPS signals as well. And with that, landing can be done quite efficiently and safely. Now, coming to the engine, we have all the modern engines, and these modern engines are controlled electronically by FADUC. That is full authority digital engine control. So again, avionics in the engine system as well. So these are different engines by IAE, CFM, all these manufacturers, GE, Rolls-Royce, all these engines which are there available in the aviation system. And all these engines are controlled very efficiently. Now the 4th generation FADUC systems are available. So they control the parameters of the engine, like speed, fuel flow, vibration, then fuel temperature, oil temperature. Whatever we talk about the engine, all the parameters are controlled quite efficiently. This is what the small box which is there, electronic control unit available, and which controls the complete part of the engine, complete engine, and then gives a very efficient and smooth operation to the aircraft. So this point I already told you, called a more electric aircraft. I want to say the configuration. In old generation aircraft, for the purpose of hydraulic pressurization, wing anti-ice, air conditioning and cabin pressurization, hydraulic pump operation, whenever pneumatics is required. For all these things, so we tap the air from one stage of the engine, and then this is used. But this pneumatic air tapping from the engine can be less efficient whenever we don't tap any of the pneumatic power from the engine. All these functions which I talked about in the previous slide, everything is electrically available. So we have electrical generator and auxiliary power unit also no more will give any pneumatic power. It will give only electrical power. So that uninterrupted electrical power is always available, and these functions can be done quite efficiently. Now, coming to the instrument systems, we have old generation aircraft 747-200, in which captain, co-pilot, one navigator, one flight engineer, this is the flight engineer's panel, and a radio officer for communication. Like this, 5 people can be there. And now all these things are modernized. And in the modern aircraft like 320 or later aircraft, we have only 2 people. So we need not to carry 5 people on board, only 2 people. And again, the latest concept is, of course, no pilot is required, but we need to put a pilot. Then one pilot can be there, and one can be operating this flight from ground with the equal authority to the flight, the pilot who is in the flight. This concept has come in, and nowadays, of course, they are experimenting on that. After that, the MH370 accident happened with Malaysian Airlines, and a couple of 2 accidents after that, Germanwings accident. So they just decided they have to have one pilot on board and then one pilot on ground, and that concept, and maybe it will be a reality quite soon. So this is what the instrumentation in Airbus 380. So we have sophisticated displays, sophisticated computers, and then printers, CD drives, then USB ports, whatever we think of in a computer system, everything is available in this cockpit. Now, this is what Airbus 350. Now you can see the difference. 350 cockpit is quite nicely designed. Of course, Rakul Collins, in India at Hyderabad. So some of a lot of their work is inside this, and display systems are from them. And one specialty is this heads-up display, head-up display. The head-up display, which was an old concept in the military aircraft, but now we started adapting in the civil aircraft as well. When a pilot is looking at these instrument clusters, and he has to put his head down to see that, and simultaneously he will not be able to see outside. So to see outside as well as reading these parameters, this head-up display is used. And nowadays, a lot of advancements in this head-up display as well. The real integration and so on. This is what the head-up display during the night, how it is getting integrated with the outside scenario. So how clear it is. And pilot can just look outside through the head-up display, outside view as well as these parameters. This is a 787 cockpit. Again, a very nicely designed cockpit. So with a very good instrumentation system. Now here, this Rockwell Collins, they have made one EVS 3000 head-up display system. And this one is having one infrared sensor outside here. This sensor which is shown in the nose of the aircraft. So it gives a picture in the cockpit like this. Supposing nothing is available out, nothing is seen outside because of the fog. Fog has filled up, and this camera captures the outside scenario along with the fog. But the fog is digitally removed. The computer removes the fog digitally, and only that hard devices or hard equipment or terrain, all these things are just shown as the display. So for the normal eyes, nothing is visible, but through this display, we'll be able to see what is available minus the fog. This is one of the modern cockpits. Now, Airbus has just told there is a concept plane. I have to go a little faster. I'll just say, the material by which they have made is
Hello.
Yeah. Fine. Okay. The Airbus is making this concept in which very transparent fuselage is available. And in 2030, they want to bring this type of design, and in which the passengers can sit and see outside directly. So this concept has come, and of course material matters. Of course, we have materials with a lot of strength available now. Now the seats are designed in such a way that the seat has a lot of sensors which can just sense the movement of the passenger. So if he is uncomfortable, the seat adjusts by itself. And then, depending upon his selection, there is a big display available there. The movie or whatever information or internet, everything is available in this screen. And this concept is also experimented, and possibly that will be also a reality. And a seat massager or flexibility in the seat to suit the ergonomics of the seat to keep the passenger quite comfortable, and that is available. Now, virtual scenery is one thing. This scenery which is there, some passengers are not comfortable with the outside scenery. Now, we will be able to put a scenery like this, which is clear sky or a jungle view or a movie. So this is basically a display unit. It's not a window. In the window, the display unit is available. So we call it as virtual scenery, and this is also available now. Now, as far as the maintenance is concerned, we started using smart inspection using the drones. The drones will be just flying around the aircraft to just capture any dent or any deformities or anything is available. So smart inspection is done with the help of these drones. This is for the maintenance purpose. Then these drones have artificial intelligence, incorporated inside. When AI is incorporated inside, of course, in all these spheres of aviation, AI is getting incorporated, and maintenance is also one among them. Mainly this I need to just to tell you, with artificial intelligence and machine learning, so they have replaced one of the pilots with this particular artificial pilot, and this artificial pilot will be able to totally replace one human sitting in this place and assisting the pilot. So the captain will be sitting here, and this artificial intelligence, this robotic pilot will be doing all the functions which are normally done by the pilot. And this could replace pilots one day. That's what this is the real experiment which is conducted, and it is quite successful. Extreme autonomy is ensured into that. And now it is landing phase is simulated and totally autonomously done by this artificial intelligence based robot. Smaller airplanes, it is quite easy to implement it. Bigger aircraft, of course, there are a lot of additional steps. And in this simulation, they have shown that this artificial intelligence based robot has taken over complete control of the aircraft after the captain got incapacitated. If this captain is incapacitated, he has just fallen sick or anything. By sensing that, this computer has automatically taken over and flown. These type of experiments are done and shown quite successfully, and I feel they are going to come and take a center stage in the aviation very soon. Now, inspection of the runway before flight, the foreign object debris, any deformities in the runway, all these things with the help of drones which are flown and then given in the display, and AI-based detection of that can be done, and that is quite interesting. Anyway, with these, I would like to stop. And if you have any questions, then you can ask me. Maybe 1 or 2 questions, or you can mail me as well. Or if you put in the chat box, I request a training manager, Mr. Ramesh Babu, to inform me so that I'll be able to answer those questions which you may have subsequent to my lecture.
Sure, sir. We'll take care, sir. We will.
Yeah, one point,
integrate
which is out of my interest, I'd like to tell you. In the airport, there are a lot of equipment available. In recent development, all these equipment, they communicate automatically with the aircraft, not voice communication, data communication. In case one equipment is going very closer to the aircraft and automatically it brakes, it senses the aircraft. Like this, automatically all the equipment, everything is communicating with the aircraft to protect it. Very often you see at the airports some, ladder, step ladder or anything hitting the aircraft. So that way, these things are quite put in place. Anyway, it's a never-ending subject. I can speak, weeks together about this, all these things, but I'm stopping now. So over to you for your questions.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, I am Paramanandan, sir.
Yeah.
Deputy Quality Manager in our AME department, sir.
Okay, sir. Please go ahead.
I don't want to take much time, sir. Just I want a small, within 2-3 lines, I want about that fly-by light, sir. Is it introduced in any of the latest aircrafts? Fly-by light systems.
Yeah, fly-by light is replacing the long wires with the help of fiber optic cables. It is used in 380, 350, 787. All these aircraft, they are having fly-by light. That is, long cables are, electric cables are replaced by these fiber optic cables. But in reality, the contour of the aircraft will not help for complete replacement of wires to fiber optic. So that's why at many places they use normal copper cables. At some places they use this fiber cables. So we can call it as a system. That system as hybrid system called, which is having both. So hybrid system is used in a lot of latest aircraft. It is used. It's a reality now. Hope I answered your question.
Fine, sir. Fine. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Sir, good evening, sir. This is Ravichandran. Sir, a small doubt, sir. Though we spoke much at large about the modernization, a small doubt. This is certainly not related to the Karipur incident. But my question is there any possibility that the advanced avionics systems affect the pilot and the way the pilot flies the aircraft?
Sir, your later part of the question was not audible to me. Can you repeat it once again?
Yes, sir. I'll repeat again, sir. No problem. Is there any possibility that the advanced avionics systems affect the pilot and the way the pilot flies the aircraft? The things are becoming more modern and modern.
Yeah, thank you for asking this. In my opinion, as far as my 30 years of knowledge which I gained, avionics systems are put in place to ease as well as to guide the pilots to work very efficiently. This is not going to affect in any way the human function or operation. See, for the point why I have to say this is, any modern equipment which is put in place has undergone rigorous experimentation process, certification process, and then there are a lot of trial which are put in the aircraft. After that only it comes to the market. Then the regulatory authorities, they ensure that these systems will not fail. That will definitely not mislead the pilots from their judgment. After that only it will be allowed. So it, I can very strongly say it will not happen that this equipment will mislead, but probably something maybe in your mind that sometime back some accident happened in the world. I remember in France one accident happened that from the analog instrument based aircraft, the pilot suddenly started flying the digital instrument. That analog instrument way of interpreting was in his mind. So he crashed the aircraft. That happened some time back. But nowadays, pilots are also well trained to handle this equipment. So I strongly feel, this type of, equipment-induced error may not happen right now.
Okay, sir.
Did I
Thank
answer
you,
your
sir.
question, sir? Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Welcome. Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anything from the student side who attended? Because I understood many of you are graduates and then AMEs.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Can
good
you hear me?
afternoon.
Sir,
Yeah,
actually,
fine. Go ahead.
I'm a passed out student from Nehru College of Aeronautics for avionics stream, sir.
Okay.
It was a quite informative session, sir. My doubt was, sir, now things are very worse. And where do we stand like in future years, sir, related to our job perspective, sir?
Okay.
Because
Thank you for asking this. When you told now we are very worse, I think I thought you were referring to the technology. But, the technology is very good. And the pandemic and these situations which we are seeing is purely temporary and are going to bounce back. And we will come with a double vigor, and the aviation systems are going to definitely increase. And very modern breakthrough technological advancements we are going to see. The chances are going to increase. And of course, right now, the things are quite bad, as you told. But, don't give up and be very optimistic. And I'm quite optimistic about is because such a similar situation 2 times I have seen during my civil aviation life. And we could bounce back. And this time also, we will definitely bounce back.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. So, Ramesh, sir, anything else?
Fine, sir. Now we'll conclude. If any
Okay,
more queries are there, I will forward to you. And thank you
Okay.
very much for your gesture, and you are ready to answer in the subsequent days also. It's your greatness, sir. We will conclude for the time being. You may be also busy. MOC team.
Yeah, thank you for giving this opportunity, sir, once again.